You're listening to the LaRocque Life Podcast, where hosts Michael and Laura explore relationships, adventure, freedom, and just some all-around real and raw conversations. Drawing from their 17 years together with a bit of sarcasm, humor, tears, a few and lots of love. They deep dive into the male and female perspective on relationships and navigate the highs and lows of life together. Sit back, grab your love mug, and let's get into today's conversation.
All right, babe. Episode 50. We made it. Season 2. What are we going to talk about?
We're going to talk about consistency and growth and how that applies to, our podcast, because we're celebrating 1 whole year of podcasting, which, I don't know, kind of blows my mind in a way. But we also then want to really talk about how that is so connected to everything that we've even talked about on our podcast, as in regards to relationship tools, stories, goal setting, and creating a vision is, we're just going to talk about it all today because it's all so very connected. And I think that oftentimes we look at change in our relationships or within ourselves and think, good gosh, that's way too big, way too hard. I'm not even going to try. Or, you try for a few days or, a few weeks and then fall off the bandwagon and just continuously in this pattern, right?
Yeah, revert back to comfort.
Yeah. So I think it's really neat that we're sitting here tonight celebrating our podcast, 50 episodes a year later. And we're going to end for a few weeks. Well, probably 6 to 7 weeks-ish. We'll be back in June.
Right.
So I just think it's really cool that we get to sit here and kind of celebrate that, because that's another thing that I feel a lot of people don't do. I know my clients, that's one of the things I'm always teaching them, celebrate you, because it's got to create that new habit as well, right? That new thought process of not always thinking the worst or expecting the worst case scenario or thinking what's next, but really sinking into this now moment and being wow, I just accomplished something, or I'm really happy with myself, and really being in those feelings, because those feelings are what create more of the feelings that you want.
Oh, absolutely. It's hard for me because then you're always striving, right? Or I'm always striving. So it's always what are we going to do next? How do we get more listeners? How are we going to do this? You got to get this. But you nailed it. Yeah. Just got to take it and celebrate. And there really is nothing else to do.
No.
Just got to get in more ears and just keep listening and keep showing up. And that's all it is, right?
Yeah. Well, and it's all about the journey, right? And I think, again, that applies to the podcast, and that applies to relationships.
Right.
Because, again, we're always kind of looking for that end destination. And when we actually allow ourselves to slow down and just be present and be with ourselves, be with our partner, it's that's where life happens. That's where the memories are made. That's where, the moments are created. So just kind of slowing down and sinking in. So let's talk a little bit about celebrating 1 year of the podcast.
Do we get a cake? Okay.
We didn't get a cake. We could get a cake. Should we get a cake?
No, we just had mine.
Yeah, we just had your birthday cake. So, okay, maybe no cake.
Yeah. No, we got to get something healthy. Have a big salad or something. Yeah. But no, it is. It's a big deal. I honestly didn't see that coming.
You didn't think we would make it to a year?
Well, I wanted to, 100%. But I didn't have real high hopes, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. So because here's the thing, and this is a pattern, even though we've done a lot of work on ourselves in our relationship, we kind of sucked at doing something new and sticking through.
Right.
Seeing it through. Right. Yep. We're really good at starting things, but then letting it die off. So I could see how you felt that would happen to this.
Well, I obviously didn't want it to, and tried everything in my power not to. And even just investing in it too, right?
Yeah.
Can't just let all this stuff just sit now. You got to use it.
Oh, that's a brilliant point, because a lot of times people think that they can just do things on their own, especially in the coaching industry. It's well, I'll just collect all of this free information and then I'll go implement it myself. And you just nailed it, where it's like, if you have no investment or you have like no skin in the game, it's so easy to just be like, I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it tomorrow. Right. And then tomorrow just never comes. So I love that you said that, because it's so applicable to relationship coaching, to any sort of coaching or any sort of goal setting, right? Any investment, whether it is your time, but specifically money that you put into it, you're going to get more out of it. And because I know a lot of people sometimes are like, that's too expensive. It's like, it's not. And it's an exchange of energy, and what you put in, you're going to take out. So, I mean, essentially, the more expensive something is, the more you're going to work at it and for it, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And so applicable to this podcast, because you've invested a lot.
That's what I do.
This is what Michael LaRocque does, just makes everything the best. But it's become like a passion for you as well, in learning the electronic side and doing the editing. So then having the tools to do the editing, right? But
for
you've
sure,
definitely invested.
But it is
money into,
and it's something to do, or not something to do, but it is a passion, right? Like, stay up till midnight or 1 or 2 in the morning editing something, where I wouldn't do that for work. Just sit and read contracts till 2 in the morning.
Yeah.
I mean, some people do, and that's great, but that's not me. It's not who I am, right?
And it's better than sitting up till 1 or 2 in the morning drinking.
Well, that's debatable, but yeah, no, for me it is a lot healthier.
For me, it's
a lot healthier. But yeah, no, that's a great point. But yeah, you nailed it. You need skin in the game, no matter what it is, right? And yeah, we definitely jumped in, or I jumped in both feet and drug you with me. But here we are, and it's worked out, and I like it. I mean, obviously, it grew from our conversations at night. Like, we told that story, right? That's where it came from. But it keeps it going. Yeah. It does. And no matter what, right? Like, every week we got to show up, and we have to do this. And we talked about it before. It's not always easy by any means, and there's so many times. And again, it goes back to, like, if we weren't invested, if we didn't have commitments, if we weren't promising to bring you guys a show, right? And feel like we
accountability.
let that down. And especially me really digging into my masculine lately is just, I got to be accountable, right? And to be accountable for that. And so, I mean, it's hard at times to get energy to do these things. And I applaud anyone that has any kind of show, podcast, masterminds, whatever people do. It's not always easy by any means, right? It's a great career by all means, or a great path. It's a great passion, but it's work too. Like, it takes time, it takes effort, and it takes a lot of energy. Yeah. And so yeah, it's not always been easy. So I'm proud of you for showing up, for sure.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, I mean, just, we're always being real, right? And there for sure are some weeks where we're like, oh yeah, we need to record a podcast, and not from a place of like, we don't want to, but just life gets in the way and it gets busy, right? And then you're tired. But this is another prime example. I'm really just trying to tie in like the lessons I've learned from our podcast that are super applicable to change and growth, and taking that into relationship work, because there's just so many times that I wanted to be like, oh, let's just do it next week, right? And that's what I was just talking about before, about if we're not held accountable, then we just fall off the wagon, right? Our brains, our subconscious mind just wants to take us back to what we know, and what we know isn't necessarily bad, but it's not necessarily where we want to go either. It's just comfortable and it's safe. And so we stay in this safe zone. And so when I think about working on my relationship or working on myself, it's so easy to just say, oh, I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it tomorrow. But when you have a coach, or when you're working with your partner on specific goals, or you're a part of a group coaching program, and there's like calls that you have to show up for, you have to give yourself a little kick in the ass, essentially, because that excuse that you're telling yourself of like, oh, I'll just do it tomorrow, or I'm like, I'm too tired, there's not enough time, there's not enough money, there's blah, like you could think of any excuse, but that excuse will only last for a few seconds if you do something to shift it, right? Like if you just go take action, just like for us, we just come sit down on this couch and start talking. And all of a sudden it's like, whoa, I can't believe that we would have not done this, because it just starts to flow. And then when we hop off, we feel so good. So it's all about shifting, but it's always starting with small incremental steps, right? So kind of tying this back to a year ago when we started this podcast, it was like, I didn't even look at a year from now, because if I did, I would be like, that's too much. I'm not doing that, right? Where are we going to find the time? Where are we going to, blah, 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 blah. But it was just like, we just sat down on this couch every week, and every week. And that couch moved to BC for a few weeks, and we kept doing it out there. Well, half the year. Yeah, half the time. And then back here, and we even recorded ahead of time so we could keep it going. But it was like we didn't look at the whole staircase and then get scared and turn the other way and not do it. It was like one step at a time. And that's how I look at work in our relationships. It's like if we looked at the big staircase, we would probably get too freaked out about the time it's going to take, the money it's going to take, the feelings we're going to have to face, the conversations we're going to have, the things we're going to have to get real about within ourselves. You'd turn around and go back, right? And be like, no, I'm not putting myself through that. That's way too big of a staircase. And so this is super, I feel like I've said the word applicable 100 times already in the last 11 minutes, but very applicable to the work we do within Safe and Wild, the work I do with my clients, the work you're creating to do with men is small changes where you have support and accountability. Because let's take communication, for instance. We talk a lot about communication within Safe and Wild. And if you just look at trying to change the way you communicate, and you have communicated for, let's say you've been together for 17 years, like we have.
Right.
That's a lot of work. But if you just take one little tool and start implementing it and don't have that excuse, and this is what's cool about doing work with your partner when you're both invested in it, is like you might not be feeling it, because this happens to us too with the podcast. Like one of us like, oh, let's do it tomorrow. It's like, no, we're doing it tonight. Like go get changed. We're doing it tonight. But same thing with your partner. It's like, okay, we're going to sit down for 5 minutes and we're going to work on some our communication skills. And every time you work on it, it gets a little bit stronger, a little bit more habitual. It becomes more easy. And this is changing patterns in the brain. And I'm learning so much about the brain right now with my own health stuff that I'm going through. And we're probably going to do an episode on that next season.
Oh, yeah.
Because I'm in the middle of something right now, which is really exciting for us. But we'll be through it more come then. So we'll share more. Come back for season 3 to find out that. Cliffhanger.
Yeah. Will Laura live? Da, da, da. But
God, I hope so.
I hope so too.
But anyways, so I think sometimes just going back to that staircase, I know this happens in relationships where people are like, I want this relationship, but I wanted this relationship yesterday. And it's like, well, no, it doesn't work that way. And the more that you even try to overhaul everything in your life in one moment, the more it's likely to not succeed, because your subconscious mind is very powerful and it will pull you back to that comfort zone. And so I'm just basically really trying to, drive home that creating small, consistent changes and making small, consistent choices every single day is going to get you to your end destination versus trying to switch it all up at once.
Oh, yeah. No, well, you nailed it, really. I mean, you take that even to physical, right?
Mm-hmm. Everything.
Like for me last year, I know, because I was over 200, or was that 200 pounds or some fucking thing?
Oh, is that how much you weigh?
Yeah. And I'm not a big guy. It's pretty ridiculous. But yeah, it was just, again, small changes, chopping that down and lost a ton of weight, right? And now putting weight back on, but good weight. So it's been interesting, right? And then even just working out every day, it's turned into a non-negotiable. That's what it is.
Yeah.
But again, with that comes a lot for me anyway. Everyone bangs on about, got to have your morning routine, or you got to have a routine, and you got to have these things, which is great. And that is part of my routine. And then it almost works as a meditation for me, and it almost works as like a clearing for me, right? And I can do a lot of learning, because I just put on YouTube videos as well while I'm working out. Extremely fortunate that we have a gym full on gym down here, that I can do that. But again, you just, even if you're at a normal gym, or if you can go to a normal gym, just put in some earbuds and listen to a podcast.
Ears, right?
But yeah, I just use that as a learning, and then obviously working out during it. And it goes a long ways, but that takes consistency, because there's no matter what, you can go deadlift 500 pounds. If you do that one day, you're not gonna have a big difference. You'll probably blow your back out, and that's about it.
You're done forever.
Yeah, but if you keep doing that every day, like work your way up to that, and then you're consistently at that, I mean, then you're one strong motherfucker, right? So it's funny how that works, but it's a great way for, at least for guys, you can see that, if you can see it in physicality.
Yeah, and that's exactly the same thing that's happening in your brain, and I mean, with your emotions, with your food. Because, so if we brought that to emotions, because that's another thing, right? Like, it's like, people who aren't used to expressing themselves, it's like, well, how do I just go from, holding everything in to all of a sudden doing everything, like saying everything to my partner and letting my partner in? And this is a conversation I actually just had with a client recently. It was like, same thing. You start slowly, like you get to know yourself a little bit, and then you express yourself a little bit. And then that invites your partner to get to know themselves and express themselves a little bit, and to hold that little bit of space for you. And then you express yourself a little bit more, and then that space gets a little bit bigger, and then he grows a little bit more, and you grow a little bit more, and the space gets bigger, and the expression gets bigger, and the respect and the love, it all just like grows, right? It's totally the compound effect. So I think for people too who are like, I don't want to work on my relationship because that's a lot of baggage to begin unpacking, and it's just easier for me to not. Because see, people are either like trying to get away from pain or seeking pleasure.
Right.
Right. And so lots of times we think that if we just avoid the pain, we'll get to where we want, but that pain just follows you everywhere you go. And so again, coming back to this emotional compounding or consistency, it's like, if you just began dealing with your own emotions a little bit through working out or journaling or having a little sit down with your partner, it will grow and it will compound, and eventually you'll be where we are today, which I think is also exciting, because it's like, well, where we are today is cool, but where we'll be in another 10 years is pretty exciting as well. But I always tell people, we didn't just wake up one morning here. Like, our conversation, our level of conversation, our level of respect, our level of understanding, both of ourselves and each other. Gosh, like, what else would you add to that?
Oh, I don't know. Well, that kind of covers the whole gamut of things, but I mean,
yeah, it didn't happen overnight.
No, God, no. I mean, obviously everyone knows our story, or most people know our story. Like, we're basically just threw in the towel, right? Like, we were calling it quits, and there was no communication there. If there was, it was very, I don't even know.
Well, it was just a very guarded, protected, egotistical. I mean, whatever word you would want to throw into there, it probably would fit.
Yeah, 100%. So it took both of us working on ourselves. And I know it took me a lot to just be comfortable with myself and opening up and just, I don't know. And then growing too in my own way and becoming my own man, I think, and learning that. And a lot of it comes with age, and a lot of it comes with maturity and learning different tools, and obviously having
but not always.
No, there's a lot of 60, 70. No, that's true. I should know that better than anybody. I mean, being on a job site and being the youngest guy there, but always being the boss. And then, yeah, that's kind of funny actually. But, so that's a good point. Yeah. Strike that from the docket. But
it doesn't come from age and maturity. It comes from a desire to want to change. Right?
It was, right. And yeah, 100%. And I don't know, innately knew. I don't know if that's obviously just me or what that is, but I knew you deserved more too. You didn't deserve all that shit. And no one really does.
Yeah. And I don't think people are purposely out there trying to hurt each other. It's all our own triggers, our own wounds, our own traumas that are being reflected back to us, right? Yeah, and we're all just so guarded and protected until we kind of go inwards and do our own thing. But sorry, I totally cut you off.
No, that's fair. No, that's about all I got, really, to be honest. It just, it was just really getting comfortable with my own masculinity. And now I don't give a fuck, really, to be honest, about what other people think or do or around me. I bang on about it all the time. As long as everyone in this house is okay. I know that know that I'll be okay. I know that you're okay. And like, and then it has that compounding effect, because then I'm okay and everything's okay in this house, and that's all I really care about. But then that just, it spreads out outside, right? And just the conversations I'm open to now with people, and just the energy you give off, or I give off.
Yeah.
Even today, just picking up eggs and stuff this morning, right? Like there's so many bitchy people in front of me in line, and then I just have like a good conversation with the teller, and she's just like lit up and like bullshitting for whatever, right? And everyone else, she's like, here you go, here you go. But me, she's just like opening up. But again, it's the energy you put off, and it goes a long ways. And then obviously in a relationship, same thing, right? Come home, sit on the fucking couch looking in the corner. It's not going to be not the greatest relationship at all, right? So you have to be open, and it takes work. And just like this podcast, just like life, just like anything, it's just, you have to be conscious about it, and you have to put some effort in, but the payoff is tenfold, right? Like it's worth it. You have to, like, it behooves you not to. You have to do it. If you don't, you're just stumbling through life, and it fucking sucks. I've been there. Been there. I know what it's like, and it's not fun.
Yeah.
And there's just, it seems hopeless. It seems pointless. Like, what is the point?
Yeah.
But
totally.
But yeah, now it's put a big effort in with Lennox too, right? And that's gone a long ways. I mean, I was quite a snappy guy before, and I mean, it's a work in progress. And I mean, I make it sound like I was terrible. I wasn't terrible, but I wasn't proud of myself at moments with him. But now I really just a lot more patient with him. I think just being with myself, like being open with myself. Now it reflects on him too, like just a lot more patient and a lot more understanding of where he's coming from. And it's just, can get to his level and just hang out and be okay with that. Like just putting him to bed tonight, it was like 40 minutes of dad, always coming up with new things. But I mean, it was interesting. And it's those moments that's what it used to always bother me, was like, okay, like he'd be doing something like that, and then I'd snap and, get mad at him, and then he would go to bed or whatever, but he's crying about it or just reluctant, and wasn't a good feeling. But, and then I would leave that situation feeling terrible, and just always replaying it in my head, like, fuck, I should have did this, I should have did that. And just not feeling good about it, and then having anxiety about it. Same thing with you in a relationship, right? Like whatever that was, like fucking it up, like, going blackout drunk and then getting mad at you about it, or whatever that looked like. I'd always have a lot of anxiety built up about it. And it was just like, why can't I just be like, but I was always worried and replaying things in my head. But back to Lennox, it was like, do that, but then just feel terrible about it. But now it's like, leave that situation, and I'm proud, and I'm just like, yes, that's my son. Like I can feel proud to be a good dad, and earn that trophy that he got me for my birthday. But no, it just.
But what did it take for you to get there?
Again, it's just a lot of understanding about myself, and just getting inside and being okay with myself, and being okay with my shortcomings, and knowing what those are, and really playing on my strengths, and just being open with you, and being vulnerable, and again, just being myself. And I didn't know what that was. And it took so many tools and great conversations with you, and just being honest with you about everything and anything, right? And I think it's gone a long way, as well, obviously relationship wise, my parenting, even just friendships. I'm a lot better friend. I don't have a lot of friends. I have a lot of acquaintances, but my friends, I'm just, just open with everybody, and not in like that, we call that mopey mic, right? Not that mopey mic or bitching or anything. Like I could just be open with everything, and it is what it is, and you get what you get. And then it works so much better to be a better listener now too, right? Like I can just calm down and listen, and not wait for my turn to talk, which is really fucked up, which a lot of people do.
Everyone does. Yeah.
And I noticed myself doing that a lot before. It was always just, you're listening, but you're not really listening, right?
Yeah. You're like thinking about what you're going to say next.
Yeah. Like you hear it. Yeah. There'd be, right? You hear it, but you're not listening. So, that was a big thing in this last couple of years that I've really, really proud of. And again, it's still a long ways from perfect by any means, but it's getting there. And now I'm finally living my passion of getting to help other people get there, right? We always talked about it, and again, that was that putting it up on a pedestal or putting it up the mountain. Like, shit, I just have no idea how we're going to get there, but consistency and this helped out a lot, and now we're there, and now we get to help now we literally get to help people do what we always said we wanted to do. We always knew you were going to coach, and you always were coaching women and stuff, but now we get to coach couples, and it's not just talk anymore. It's like, we're doing it. It's what we do. It's who we are. So I'm very proud of that.
Yeah. And again, coming back to like Safe and Wild, that was really cool because we got really good feedback on that too. And a lot of people were like, well, I didn't really know what to expect, just kind of joined, or like wasn't sure if my partner would get anything out of it, but kind of convinced them to come, or I thought it might be a waste of time, or, just different things like that. But the feedback on the other side of it is like everyone learned something to take into their relationship. And one of the biggest things that actually people have said so far, which I think is really cool and so in alignment with this topic, is that it won't totally transform your relationship, but it will give you the tools too. So there's been a few different feedback come back with, that essential message, because I think this is the thing that people go into. And I know I was always the person to do this as well. Like, this is the next thing. This will cure all my problems. This will be like that miracle pill, like that overnight success, right? Like, this will be that thing that transforms everything. And I'm just going to go sign up for this. And then, I was always let down, and nope, it wasn't, because I learned that, okay, so I still have to actually like put in the work and do the things that I learned from that. And then things will change. But I'm really glad that a lot of our participants realized that like it's not a magic pill, but it gave them all tools and motivation and support and accountability to start making those changes. And again, they just did them incrementally. And now they're compounding, and they're having these deeper conversations with their partners. And kind of just going back to what I was saying earlier before, I didn't want to cut you off again for the second time, but how like, I don't think we're purposely hurting each other. It's like we're hurting and we don't know that really. And so then obviously we're reacting, we're triggered, and then our partner is too. And it's just like, two hurt people, or two people holding on to some sort of resentment or anger or sadness, something that could be related to each other, but could be completely unrelated to each other, and oftentimes from their own childhood, their own subconscious mind, right? And so what I really love about Safe and Wild is that we learn about patterns and we learn about communication, and we give you tools on that, and we spark conversation around that. And we give you an opportunity to open up and share both with your partner, but also like with us and with a group of women or with a group of men, because we get so focused. Like if something hurts, that obviously is taking up all of your energy, right? All of your brain power. Like you are just hyper focused on that area of your body that is cut, right? Or wounded or sprained or whatever. So it only makes sense that in relationships, when something isn't going right, that your focus and your energy keeps going there and keeps fueling it, and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. But then when you sign up for something like Safe and Wild, you just like totally change the trajectory, and you start putting your focus onto something else, which can be on your future and where you want to start, being better and communicating better and listening better and being more respectful and loving yourself more so that you can love your partner more and understanding what your partner needs from you. And so it's not so much on like having to talk about the past over and over and over again. And he said, she said, or you did this to me, and like that kind of stuff. Like we really just focus on giving you tools for moving forward. And I think that that's a really important thing to know for couples, is like the past is the past. And yes, there is a opportunity to heal that. And you do need to come to a level of forgiveness, both within yourself and with your partner. But the more you continue to focus on that in a negative way or in a disempowered way, the more that's going to grow. And so no wonder couples are, separating and parting or just staying together for the sake of the kids, but never like having that intimate, connected relationship that they want to have, is because they're so focused on what it's not or what they don't want. And so I don't know, Safe and Wild is just really just seems to bring people's perspective at like a 180 and start focusing more on what we can control, what we can change moving forward, and who and how we want to be. So then we don't necessarily become those people who are just hurting each other unconsciously, right?
Yeah, no, that's a great point. Yeah, absolutely. If you're not thinking about it, it really is, right? And yeah, you just take it all out on the person that you're supposed to love the most and protect the most. And I don't know, it sucks being, like I said, like I played that over and over again in my head before. It was just like, why am I doing this to the person I love? But again, it's always like, oh, well, they'll always be there, whatever that is, right?
Yeah.
Until they're not.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. It's always funny because like we had talked about this with overnight successes before as well. And like, okay, so we've talked about the podcast for a second because we're tying it all together. You know, in our heads, we always think that we should just be really good at things right off the bat. And if we're not, then we don't want to do it. So this has been one of our best lessons as well. It's like, you know, we have to build trust and build an audience, right? Build people who want to listen to us. And so it does take time. It does take consistency. And then one day we're going to have this like big following and people will look at us and be like, oh, never heard of these people before. They must be an overnight success. But it's like, no, you never see all of the time that was like building that up, right? But it works the same way in a more disempowered state as well. And if we take this into our relationships, well, I'll go both ways in the relationships because I don't want to only like focus on disempowered stuff in relationships. But if we look at a relationship and, you know, people are so shocked when they split, like, oh my God, can you believe they just seemed so great? Or it was only like a few years ago we were at their wedding or at whatever, right? But it's like, all of these things are compounding as well, right? People don't just wake up one morning and be like, I don't want to be with you. These are all of the, you know, the lack of tools, the lack of self-awareness, the lack of, you know, love, not love, but respect for yourself and your partner, the lack of knowing who you are, lack of conversation and knowing what they want kind of thing and what they need. And that's what builds up. And all of a sudden creates this relationship where people are like, oh, wow, things must have been bad suddenly, right? Or people like assume someone cheated or something. So it's like, but not necessarily everything compounded. And so it can compound the opposite way as well, right? Where it's like, oh, people have this amazing relationship. They must be so lucky. It's like, no, they're not actually lucky. I mean, some people probably are just maybe, what are they? Soulmates. And they're just like, everything runs so smoothly for them. I don't know. I don't know very many people like that, so that's not my level of expertise. No,
and the more we get to know people and a lot of different, it just isn't. I don't know if that's even fucking fairy tales. That's not true, right?
Right. And so just to cap that off, like the couples who you see that you put on a pedestal and you want to be more like, they didn't just wake up one morning and be like that. We kind of talked about this earlier. Like it is days, weeks, months, years of consistently wanting to grow and wanting to evolve and essentially being curious, right? Being curious about themselves, being curious with each other and learning together to change. Because if we're not growing, we're dying. And a lot of people, I think, have this stuck mindset of just like, this is the way things are, this is who they are, and they're not allowed to change. But it's like, no, you should want your partner to change as they should want you to change, but you like grow and evolve together, right? God, I would hate it if you've never changed. Sorry, I just had that thought.
Just hit home?
Yeah, that just hit home saying that. But anyway, so I just wanted to show how that goes both ways, right? Like relationships are really great and relationships fall apart because of the habits that are compounding.
Right.
So you get to choose which ones do you want to start focusing more on.
Yeah, no, that's a great way to wrap that up, I think.
Well, why awesome. Are you sick of my talking?
No, not at all. That was good. We're going to get even...
It's my nice way of being like, okay, that's it.
No, that's just... We're going to get better at this as well. Like just having some segments into it and different things, right? So
yeah,
it's only going to keep getting better. And no, you just nailed it. That's perfect. Well, do you want to keep it fairly short and sweet or what?
Yeah, let's keep it short and sweet because this is our last episode of this season. We're going to take, like I said, 6, 7, week break. We'll be back the beginning of June, and we got some stuff of our, oh my gosh, yeah, time to stop. Stuff up our sleeve. And we're going to be bringing on some more guests and just changing things up a little bit, bringing some more value and excitement. And
yeah, it helps change the energy, right? Like
yeah,
people
exactly.
get probably sick of us sitting here talking. So it's nice to have other people on and
well,
just
we
different,
get to learn, right?
Yeah, and different points of views. And it's all generally the same stuff. We're all after the same thing, but it's just different ways to get there. And
yeah, exactly.
yeah, it's awesome hearing different people's point of view.
Yeah, exactly. And then in regards to Safe and Wild, we are getting it all set up on a platform and we're going to run it again. We haven't fully decided yet. It's going to be end of May, beginning of June. So just make sure you're following us on LaRocque Life Podcast, whether that's on Facebook or Instagram, because that's where we'll be keeping you notified and we'll start to fill the program from there. So you can go to our website, though, LaRocqueLife.com, and go to Safe and Wild, get on the wait list. You just have to apply to get onto the wait list, and then you'll be the first to know when we do launch it again, that you'll know the exact dates and you'll get first dibs on it, essentially, because we're going to keep it nice and small and intimate again for a few rounds. And so, but yeah, follow social media to know when it's going to launch, and we'll be back in June with the podcast.
Yeah, no, that's great. Well, that's awesome. I think let's leave it at that. And just keep following us on social media, and we'll be back for season 3.
Yes.
And well, that's awesome. Well, I love you.
I love you too.
I love you guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening. Find us on social media at LaRocque Life Podcast and online at LaRocqueLife.com. Ladies, find Laura on social media at Laura LaRocque and online at LauraLaRocque.com. Have a request for a show topic? We love that. Send us an email at michael@LaRocqueLife.com or DM at LaRocque Life Podcast. And don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review.